Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Paul.
And we are SP Film Viewers.
So, we are going to be talking about Doctor Sleep in this review, but we were initially going to be talking about Borat's subsequent movie film, or whatever that long-winded title it has is called, that was on Amazon Prime, almost out of nowhere.
Well, it shouldn't even have been there, should it really? But anyways, don't get me started.
It's because I thought that would be kind of funny to do something about that, as, Sophie's such big love for the first film. So I thought, well, maybe this would be a funny little experiment to see if she thinks the second one's any better. But unfortunately, there didn't seem to be. Certainly didn't think there was much in terms of content really to talk about in the end after.
No, it was quite funny because it wasn't that bad as a film. It didn't make me feel as like the comedy was not so out there that it was really uncomfortable. So there was some cringy kind of like, oh my god, like that one scene with when she was like becoming fertile. I was like, oh, I can't even cope with this.
Yeah.
This is just. But it wasn't as bad as I thought. I was really, really going in thinking this is going to be rubbish, but I didn't come away thinking anything of it really.
As did I, which is not a particularly good thing because I thought it'd be something that would really be making me laugh. I don't think I really laughed really hard at all.
No, I don't think you did. But I don't know if it's
chuckled a little bit through a couple of things, but it was kind of like, I don't know if that's because that was at the cinema with everybody else laughing. Maybe that I would found that more funny.
Possibly because you sat with me with a stone cold face. Maybe I kind of rubbed it off like you didn't think it was as funny. I don't know because
I was just there like, no, this is nothing really.
The fact that they kind of played on the coronavirus, I don't really think I appreciated that. I think that's maybe give it a year and then that might be funny once we've come out of it. I think it's not funny to kind of be playing kind of.
Yeah.
If you get me, it's like, well, when we're still in it, people are still kind of suffering from it. So I feel like it's a touchy subject. I don't think it's.
Yeah, it shouldn't really be poking too much
fun at it.
I know that's what his comedy's more about, really.
I just think it's a bit too raw for it to be poked at the moment. I think it should have waited, and then that might have been a bit funnier. For me personally, I feel like he wasn't really a knockout character. I think his daughter was
She was definitely more the star of the show.
But I'd never watch it again. I'd not tell anyone to waste their time. It was okay because I'd had a hard day at work, and it was like one of those things that it's not really hard to keep up with. You don't have to be mentally.
Other than maybe reading subtitles, there seems a lot more of that in this one, weirdly.
Yeah, but we're used to that anyways. The normal subtitles we read are.
Yeah, they're Japanese anime or whatever and all that.
But they might be a bit more in depth, like the.
Like Parasite.
Yeah, so it's like just a couple of little bit of text, and it's all basic kind of English. It's no, over the top or anything like that. It's just bland.
Yeah, sad to say that is really the case, and that it doesn't come across that particularly strong in what it's trying to get across. It's kind of like what parts are meant to be really funny, that like laugh out loud funny, like the original one was. I know that's what you have with sequels, and this is a bit long in the tooth for this coming out, I suppose. Like 13, 14 years maybe.
I just think it's taken a long time to come out, and they've rushed it and done a bodge job. And to be honest, it's more, for me, if you'd ask me which one I prefer, it's not as kind of like cringe and such. So I actually think this one's actually, it's just okay, whereas I hated the other one. And I think, but at least I had a passionate kind of hate towards it, whereas like I literally, nothingness. This is something that somebody will watch it and they put it on in the past, and then it's like, it won't be iconic, it won't stay around, it's
certainly not, no.
Just going to fade away.
Yeah. So with that, what score would you give this? Considering the other one was like 2, I think you gave it.
I think I didn't mind the main lady character. She was okay.
Yeah.
I think probably 2.5 is like the highest I could give it. So I gave it a bit more just because I don't hate it.
I'm gonna go 3 because I gave Borat on the viewing we did a while back. That was a 5.
I feel like I'm ruining these movies for you. Like something that you quite like is comedy, and I not that I haven't. I have got a funny bone. I am quite a funny person, but I don't like put on humour. I can't gel with it. Like if something's genuinely funny, then that's fine. But like someone trying to make me laugh, it's like
but this one didn't really tickle my funny bone at any point. No. Really, just a little smirk like, oh, that's I'm using costume or whatever. Nothing like rip roaring.
Like when he was hitting the wall trying to kill coronavirus, I'm thinking, are you stupid? It was more like that. That was going through my head. I'm just thinking, these people are just thick. Mm-hmm. It's like they're actually just stupid.
I know it's put on, but yeah, I know what you mean. Oh. So the reason for 3 is really kind of just like it was for the narrative structure of having the daughter and the sort of the development there. Mm. I know that's how the story's got to play out and everything, but she did a good job really.
She did better than Borat. So on that note, we're not going to leave you hanging and thinking, well, is that it? Is that the end of the podcast? They've just done a review in like 5 minutes or something like that.
No, we did a little poll on an Instagram story of whether people wanted us to do a review of Dr. Sleep to follow up on from doing The Shining. Mm. So I would like to thank everybody who voted yes to that.
Yeah, thank you for everybody who did vote it. We ended up obviously watching it, which kind of tied in nicely to our end of our Halloween month. Kind of being a Shining kind of week, I would say, for us anyways. We've got to the point of where this is Paul's favourite movie is The Shining.
Yep, that's correct.
You've got your t-shirt and your cup now.
Got the script that you got me last year for Christmas.
Yeah. So it was like, well, this is the way that we have to kind of tie the bow, I feel.
Yeah, I think. And especially because, as I said last time on the episode, that you didn't come to see it with me at the cinema the first time. Because, like I say, you might potentially been scared. I didn't know where it was going to be going in terms of the story.
Because you hadn't seen it.
Myself. And 2, again, because of that, I didn't know how much was going to be involved with The Shining itself. So you might be a bit confused and be like, oh, I don't understand what's going on.
However, to be fair to me, I did say I would go because I didn't want him to be on his own going to the cinema because I just think that's weird. But Paul kind of doesn't mind doing stuff on his own. He's very independent. Mm-hmm. But if that were me, I'd be like, I'm not going because I'm going to go on my own.
People do that though, so.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people. No. I've noticed I always like somebody being by my side. So we had his pumpkins and everything still lit, and we'd got into that atmosphere of ready to watch Dr. Sleep. So it's kind of starts off where Danny is like young. However, they're trying to kind of replay certain scenes, which like clearly Danny doesn't look like that and Wendy doesn't look like that because Wendy needed to be a hell of a lot dippier to pull off the Wendy character from The Shining.
Yeah, definitely. But to be fair, there was certain parts where she did a good job with the vocal performance of her delivering the lines. Like when she was like looking for Danny near the beach and you're like, that worried, Danny, where are you doing? That kind of thing. And
she actually sounded quite a lot similar, didn't she?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Definitely. Yeah. I think she did portray quite well in that sense. And obviously it was enjoyable to see
the aftermath of the Overlook Hotel experience.
Yeah, I think it was one of those where it kind of answered a little bit more for me.
Yeah, like what happened after?
Yeah, like I always want to know what happens after. Also, it kind of delved into a bit more history of Jack. So you kind of understood that Danny did actually, even though his dad died, and obviously his dad had got this kind of mental illness sort of thing and gone a little bit insane when he was at the hotel, Danny didn't resent Jack, which you'd have thought, to be honest, if I was like a 6-year-old little boy and my dad was coming at me with an axe, I don't think I'd want to speak to my dad, to be fair. I'd have put him very, very back in my mind, whereas Danny seems to do quite well at talking about his father still. His father's still quite present, and he's kind of holding on to what his dad used to be like.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a scene where, obviously, kind of at the earliest stage where he gets into this new town, and he's on about, like, he's suffering with alcoholism, and he's kind of then, later on in the film, you see that actually, so did his dad, which we were aware of, but I didn't know Danny was aware of that, at such a young age, or if his mum told him as he grew up a little bit more about his dad. And actually, when he got sober, I actually said, "This is to my dad, we've made it." And it was like, wow, actually, I'm quite surprised that you've still got that strong connection towards your dad to say,
all that happened
yeah,
back then, yeah.
So that was quite surprising to me. I didn't know if he'd gone the other way and had been a bit more rebellious and such.
Yeah, I think you kind of get the sense of that maybe with the whole alcoholism thing, struggling with that, because he's obviously had a messed up childhood, and which is kind of understandable. That he might have gone that way, but he's, people can come out the other side smelling the roses if you put a bit of graft in.
Yeah, and which obviously he gets some good people around him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He gets some people to help him, and he comes out the other end, obviously, with a good job. He's got a flat, he's got friends, and he seems quite to be able to get rid of the monsters in his head.
Yeah, but obviously at the very beginning, we're introduced to the sort of the main focus of the storyline with these, let's call them
Dementors.
Could be Dementors, could be like steam vampires.
I like that one better than Dementors.
With our main lead lady, I guess, Rose the Hat, who seems to prey on people who have the shining.
Yeah, I was wondering about this because, she's got some sort of shining herself.
Yeah.
Because obviously she's got some sort of special powers. And I know Danny did say there's people who, like, for example, have somewhat a shining, but they haven't delved into it as much. Like, let's say you knew, like, for some reason you want to go get me some flowers, and actually I've had a really bad day, and then flowers have cheered me up. And you had that
like he did explain that as a scenario, or did well in maths test or whatever without doing any revision, that kind of thing.
Having that little bit of the knowing kind of sense.
Yeah.
However, then some people have just got extreme shining. So I'm wondering what these kind of steam life soul sucking, they've got a little bit of a shine. They think they're all cool though, don't they? And they remind me a bit of like a Twilight-y kind of bad culty gang.
Right, yeah.
That's kind of what...
Not less sparkly or camp, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I think if people do watch Twilight, I used to love it and I read all the books, but there's a kind of the really, really dark vampires. So not the Cullings. This other one, like I think they're in Italy or something like that, and they've got they drink. So like the Cullings are like vegans or whatever you want, vegetarians. So they don't eat actual human blood and such. Whereas these ones in Italy are like your horrible ones, which it's more them.
Right.
You won't know what I'm meaning because he won't let me put him through another Twilight film because we did do that, didn't we? And you hated it every second of the way.
Yep.
So flipping back on to Doctor Sleep, you kind of get this kind of cult kind of culture. It's somewhat of a sacrificing of the shinings so that they can live and have a longer life.
So live long, eat well.
Yeah, but if you don't eat well, you can't live long. And to be fair, that's in any case. If you're not eating well, you're not going to be living for long unless you've got some water.
Yeah.
You might survive a little bit longer, but to be honest, that's the whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah, they take this to the extreme of like eating a soul of somebody. The Shining is, I don't know what the equivalent of 2-3 years. I don't know, or however long. I'm not entirely sure, but obviously if it's not.
It helps them, obviously, with their age and such. But it's like, to be fair, would you really want to live forever? No,
not to see loved ones die and all that, but
exactly. Unless everybody could live forever with you, then all your loved ones.
Yeah. But then you have to get them on board, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and it's like, well, she hasn't though, has she? She's gone out of the way. She's created her own family basically with these other people. Obviously, she fancies one of them, doesn't she? Or she's dating him or something.
Yeah.
So you've got that kind of concept of the story. So you've got another side of it. You've got Danny's story, and then you've got Abra.
Yeah, that's right.
Kadabra.
Kazam. I said to you, no, it's like, obviously that's the maybe the first thing that most people would think of that as as a weird name, magic word. But I would, even when I knew what she was called from trailers or reviews or whatever, I was thinking this Abra, the Pokemon character.
Is that the one that bends the spoons?
No, that's the very first one that's got his eyes closed and sits.
Oh, like sleeping.
Yeah.
But it's quite funny because I was thinking of the spoon
bending one, yeah.
Kind of linking with the first scene that you get to see of Abra.
Yeah.
With the, like, I can do that with the spoons.
Yeah.
And obviously, this magician's got his spoon on his nose, and then the mum and dad go into the kitchen and, like, all these spoons.
All the spoons, silverware is up in the ceiling, yeah.
Which I think if I had a little girl that were doing that, I'd be like, oh my god, she's freaky as hell. I'd be like, yep, okay, Paul, you've definitely got to deal with her. I don't know what to do with her. So yeah, so she's actually quite cute, isn't she? And obviously you get to see her growing up a little bit, where she's kind of get a little bit of background on her being at school and kind of her being able to listen and read people's minds. And
yeah, she's quite a powerful shine that she's got going on.
She's more powerful than Danny, I think.
Yeah, which Rose the Hat quickly learns about from an instance where they kidnap a young baseball player who seems to have the sense of the shining going on. I find that to be a quite traumatic scene as well, you know, when he's kind of like tied or pinned down, whatever, and then they're kind of like, he seems like genuinely terrified.
Yeah, he does.
While they're, killing him.
Somewhat eating him, though, really. Do you get wrong? It felt like a little bit like cannibalism. Yeah.
Except not physically eating his limbs, it's kind of just like every cut was like a gasp of the shining gas.
I do think those scenes were a little bit like, it was bloody and it was a bit creepy.
Yeah.
So. But I still could cope with it. It wasn't like, the music didn't seem to have a strong connection in this one.
Obviously influenced quite heavily with that, with like the like the sharp violin strings going on. It
just didn't seem to have that creepy vibe though. It didn't get it to where The Shining, literally you put it on and I'm like, oh god, I'm going to be scared. I feel like you had a lot more development with the story, the characters. There wasn't as much until like literally half an hour.
Back in where we got to the Overlook Hotel.
Yeah.
Which I think plays to its strength, really, because it's kind of its own story. It's not trying to be The Shining 2. It's, even though it sort of is, the way that the story plays out is strong in its own.
It is. I did feel like, because it was quite a lengthy film, it did feel like it, not dragged, but I did wonder whereabouts, how long had we got left.
It's always a good sign, isn't it, when people ask. How long is there?
But I do it because I'm thinking, right, when's the scary part coming? I've been okay all this way. It's been not too bad, but there's going to be that end finale, and we're wondering how close we were to it. So I did kind of think the similar with The Shining. However, I do feel like this kind of could have been condensed down a little bit, which is actually surprising. It gave me everything I needed, but it just felt a little bit long. Whereas it was roughly the same time length as The Shining, but actually The Shining didn't.
And this one wasn't even the director's cut I showed you either. So there is a longer cut of it because I thought I'd just go with the 2.5 hours.
So glad, because if it had been even longer. So we watched the extended version, didn't we, for The Shining?
Yeah, that's actually more the standard for most people anyway.
But that felt like a good amount of time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Whereas this did seem a little bit long. But still very good content, very good. I think the best bit was, though, the half an hour at the end when you do go to the hotel and you get that kind of Danny story coming back into play. Because Abra does kind of take a strong lead lady character.
So, as to be expected, because it's more her story and, coping with her powers and getting the better of Rose and her
which she does really well, which I love that the fact that she's only little and she kicks ass and she's like with like a 30-year-old adult or something. I think that's amazing. I'd love that.
Yeah, she could be like 300 thousand. But yeah, I get what you're saying. So it is so obviously that satisfaction of when the bad guys who are getting their comeuppance against
quite quickly, yeah,
in
by
a short amount of time, losing men like drop of a hat, so to speak. Quite quickly as well after all this time being outdone. The only annoying bit again, but I guess you got to have some casualties, haven't you?
Yeah.
Is that particular part with that new recruit that they had, the young girl, and can do like the mind manipulation of, when she speaks and tells them what to do. But it's when she's about to die and then she gets Danny's friend who's been taking him out to, suss out these people and investigate and everything, and then they take all the gang members down. And then on her dying breath, she kind of says, like, kill yourself. And then
he goes ahead.
And kills her. It's like,
It's a bit bittersweet, isn't it? But to be fair, they have just killed loads. You normally don't get away with everyone living, do you? Let's be honest. But
yeah, I know
it was more I felt for Danny because it was one of his best friends.
They'd taken him in
and actually listened to him, understood him, and that kind of was a bit of a bittersweet kind of scene. So
then, back to the last part, which is kind of like not like being like, oh, remember this from The Shining, not in a bad way, because I think that's kind of like when it's got the loud cinema speakers and on the big screen, it's like, this is fantastic, especially for the biggest fan as I am of The Shining. But like you said before, the music, it wasn't exactly the same, but obviously it's playing on the same.
Yeah, it was just kind of deeper, wasn't it? Really.
Yeah. Wasn't obviously inspired and everything, so you got these flashbacks of certain things. Like there's the corridor that
the two twins
were in, and here's the room that Jack and Danny and Wendy were staying in, and all that kind of stuff. And that woman in the bath at some point as well. Oh my goodness, that woman in the bath. That was maybe a little played on a little bit too much because she was almost like one of the main things that kept happening. But I guess it's easy to do because it's like, well, everybody has a bathroom. Well, yeah, that was the thing. I actually got freaked out the other day when I had a bath. I don't know why, but it was like she was there, and it was like, oh, go away. Like, I don't want to be thinking every time I'm having a bath or going into the bathroom that this woman's gonna be. It's a good job we don't have a shower curtain. Yeah, we have a glass. Yeah. One. Because I'm going to see her anyway. And also the bath isn't angled the way that their bathrooms are angled, so there's not a door and then a shower curtain that goes like that, is it? Yeah, so you'd be seeing it more straight on rather than side. So, but she freaks me out. She really does. But she was like, how many times? Like maybe 4 at least. 3 or 4, yeah, maybe. Because she was with Danny, and then she was like came out. About 4 times. Yeah. And it was like, oh my goodness, I did actually think that there'd have been a bit more play on Jack. Which there kind of is, a reincarnated form of. He's saying that he was Lloyd, the bartender, so that kind of makes me think, well then, was that the Grady from, when we see him as he is there, and as Jack sees him in The Shining, as Lloyd, is that what Grady looked like? Before that, I don't know. It's kind of like just putting them within bodies and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting. Because I did think, well, that seems a bit peculiar, but it was nice that Danny could talk to Jack, even though Jack was obviously putting the drink on to Danny to try and get him to get a bit. Yeah, kind of like turn him, playing with his mind. And again, like, come have a drink, sober for I don't know how many years. Trying to get him back onto that track, but no, he doesn't. He doesn't. And I think he's done really well, because it's like, to be fair, he was only like 6, and then he's had all these traumas with these other, because obviously the hotel got kind of derelict, didn't it, in the end? Yeah. No one opened it up, but all these kind of spirits or ghosts kind of then kept haunting Danny throughout his younger years, and then he ended up learning to put them in boxes. And then it's like, so you've overcome it all, you've put them in boxes in your head, and now you're literally just opening up a can of worms, pretty much, when you were stepping into this hotel and waking them all up again. And he's quite brave to put his self on the line to do that for Abra. Like, I kind of get that sense of, he's like, how Dick was with Danny. It's like, oh,
I've got a responsibility now to look after you.
Yeah.
And he ended up dying because of Danny.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of get that happening again.
Yeah. I mean, that's brutal in a sense, because he sacrificed himself by setting the place on the Overlook Hotel on fire with him in it, I guess, maybe to truly purify everything after Rose the Hat's demise with all the spirits at the hotel, because she gets a bit greedy with trying to get Danny's steam.
Yeah.
And then all the ghosts of the hotel, the Grady girls, Delbert Grady and the other ones.
Bathwoman again.
Oh, come on. And then just some of the randomers.
That don't really...
Yeah.
Yeah. But she gets her comeuppance, doesn't she? She gets
the
same thing that what she's been doing to others, done to herself.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of karma, basically, but in the bottom.
Much, yeah.
So I think she deserved to kind of die the way she did. But I didn't like the fact that in the scene kind of you saw them preying on Danny, trying to...
Yeah, almost immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I didn't like that part, because it's like, no, you've kind of messed his entire life up. Can you just leave the poor guy alone now?
Yeah.
And especially to say that he'd got his life in order until Abra came around. Like, he'd literally got a steady job, got friends, he's got a nice house, or flat.
Yeah. But it felt like he'd fulfilled his purpose by doing that, though. It's not like, I could have lived happy if it wasn't for you, kind of thing. It wasn't just a...
No, but I think he did resent it a little bit at the beginning. He didn't want to help, did he?
Yeah, of course, but that's, again, character development,
yeah.
isn't it?
Kind of, you did say, though, when I was watching this, I was like, I recognise him, and you were like, explained he was from Christopher Robin.
Yeah.
Which, it's kind of like the same story, but just not as dark. Christopher Robin comes along. No, well, Pooh comes along.
Yeah.
And Christopher Robin's like resenting Pooh because Pooh's messing everything up for him.
Yeah.
And he's had a good going and he's got to do his work and got to do this.
Yeah.
And then obviously in the end he ends up getting too involved with Pooh in his adventure. Just like how Danny gets too involved with Abra's. Obviously there's a nicer ending to
yeah, obviously.
Robin. But it's kind of the same story, isn't it?
Maybe not quite, but I get your sort of sentiment.
So I think my main bit was I thought the Overlook Hotel scene would have been a little bit more scary for me. I actually was okay with it. I
don't know how you would have coped maybe if you saw it at the cinema without any context as such, perhaps. But you were a bit anxious when it was getting up close to it and like re-entering almost going into like a haunted house.
Yeah, I did. It was like obviously you saw this kind of not lit
shadow, and all buried in the snow and
kind of ominous. And then it kind of, when he was putting on the lights on, I was thinking, okay, breathe stuff, it's going to get scary now. And I was thinking, but actually I don't feel like it was as scary as
The Shining.
But I don't know if that's because I'd kind of knew that Rose, I don't know why, was going to die in my head. I kind of got that.
Yeah,
whereas with The Shining...
Well, you had it differently anyway, that you think everyone was going to be dying.
Yeah, I thought literally it was going to be one of those films where everybody dies. Whereas in this one, I didn't really know what was going to happen, but I knew Abra were going to be okay. I kind of got that sense.
Yeah.
What had happened to Danny, I wasn't 100% sure of. I think because we're kind of replaying on The Shining, I had already seen that.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't feel as scary because I already was aware of it, I guess.
Yeah, almost a bit like when Rose was walking past, the elevator and blood thing, and almost kind of like and just carried on walking almost. It's like, that's a bit odd.
Like, I was like, straight away said to you, is the elevator going to bleed? And so I knew kind of what was going to happen, so I was more prepared, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'd have been scared, like you said, probably would have been if I hadn't have had the content of The Shining. Probably would have been a little bit more daunting. What is nice is you obviously know that Danny in the end is at peace, he's resting, he's in a happy place.
Yeah.
And he does come and visit Abra.
Like a guardian angel almost.
Yeah, and obviously it helps her because she's kind of got him there still to help her through all these different challenges she's going to have with The Shining.
Yeah, and it's more of she can be accepted of her powers in a sense, like not being shunned for it.
Yeah.
So it's nice, and then she's able to, like Danny does, the closing shot of, going into the bathroom and getting rid of the old woman again. Like,
God.
Right, just piss off, will you?
I wish she would. Like, I don't get, but I guess Abra did kind of have that encounter with her. She got into that room, didn't she?
Yeah.
And she was there.
Yeah.
Because all the rest of them didn't.
Yeah, so I think it was just probably just that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the rest of them kind of, I think, must have burned down with the hotel, really.
Yeah. Mind you, there was the two girls. They didn't say, like, hello, Abra, or anything like that to her in the corridor.
Just come play with us, wasn't it?
No, that was just to Danny again. So.
Yeah, so I think, in my opinion, all of them kind of died in the Overlook Hotel.
Yeah.
I think it's weird because it's like, well, I still don't know what those things are. Like are they dead? Are they spiritual? Like, kind of, I understood with the steam vampire things. Obviously, they were human and they were wanting to live, whereas it felt more like they were ghostly in the Overlook Hotel. So you had, like, various monsters.
So, are we ready to go to giving it a score?
Yep. Can you remember what I gave The Shining?
That would have been an 8.5.
So, I know you were dead chuffed and you gave it a 10.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think the reason why I underplayed it was because I was scared. So, obviously, I don't like being scared. That's not a point to be given just because I was scared. I think with this one, obviously, I don't think I'm going to be scoring it as high. That's the reason why I asked. Okay. Because if somebody was going to ask me which one to watch, I would definitely say The Shining. Yes. 100%. There's no brainer.
I'm with you there, yeah.
Is, but this is not a bad sequel to it, and it doesn't hinder The Shining in whatsoever. And I think you could probably get away with watching them apart.
Yeah, I agree on that part as well. That it's, like, for the first time, I wouldn't know what to expect, obviously. But I thought it might really, really played on it quite heavily, but it is essentially its own film in a sense, just with a sprinkle of it thrown in. So
with that in mind, I think probably it's not far off. I think it'd probably just be a mark down, so it'd be like a 7.5, I'd say. It's not weak, but it's not very scary. It doesn't have that, like, literally I had like a shiver kind of goosebump effect all the way through The Shining, whereas this was kind of more leading you into a false kind of safety pretense until like half an hour of the film where it tried to give you its all. I feel like they could have given it a bit more at the end just for scary factor, which sounds weird coming out of my mouth because normally I don't want that. But I was generally not that frightened, unless I'm just becoming
desensitized a little bit.
Maybe. Like it didn't seem too bad. But yes, I loved the relationship with Danny and Abra. I think that was a really good, nice relationship to have, and that obviously was a strong relationship, which I always like to see, which I don't think he had in The Shining. I think it kind of had the detail that The Shining did still. It still gave you quite a bit, but if anything, it gave you a lot more character depth, a bit more understanding on Jack, even though he wasn't present, and then obviously more on Danny. So I think overall 7.5. What about you?
Obviously, it's not going to be a 10. It's going to sit at an 8.
Okay, yeah. And why is that? Because it's no Shining.
It's never going to live up to that, but I wasn't expecting it to anyway. A lot of time has passed since this came out, from 1980 when Shining came out. But unlike Borat 2, we'll call it, it was strong enough to be its own story. I definitely enjoyed it the first time. It was like it was a new experience the first time thing, and seeing the cinema. I'm glad I did see it in the cinema. Maybe I felt the length a little bit this time around, but I guess I kind of sort of knew what was going to happen, and then it's like we get to the
main bit.
The main bit. So there was parts that maybe had a little bit this time, but it was not like really. Oh, this is terrible kind of thing. Obviously, like you said, you got the peppering of the Shining film with the musical Stings score inspired from that film.
Yeah.
And it was dark enough to have those elements of what was played out in the Shining itself. You had characters you love to hate as well.
You did, yeah, as well.
And it's always satisfying, like I say, it's satisfying to have them get the comeuppance. Because, I always hate when the bad guys get away with
murder.
Yeah, actually.
Or red rum, should we say, sorry.
Yeah. And everybody's acting performances were very solid. Ewan McGregor's, you could believe him as a grown-up Danny as well.
Yeah, you could, yeah. Actually looks a little bit like Jack as well, I thought. So quite clever to... Poor Wendy don't even get a look in, does she really?
Even Dick Halloran's character is obviously not the same guy again, but, you know, like, even though he isn't believed him to be, as he was, you know, the mentor of you know, the mannerisms and stuff. Yeah, so it was nice that. There is also, which I guess I kind of, we didn't have a cat Arthur at that point, but I remember obviously there being a white cat, and I did think that the cat in this was almost all white like ours is, but he wasn't. This one had a big bushy tail and with a brown on it.
Brown, yeah.
With a bit of white on it.
The cat is really cute, and I do think it's quite a sweet way to kind of, even though it's scary for the cat to tell you that you're going to die.
Yeah, well, it's a nice way, because he was...
No, he was dead cute about it. He wasn't like coming in to kill you, was he? He was like kind of comforting you.
Danny being Dr. Sleep, and, you know, as he's coined by his... It would help them, you know, be at ease and go to rest in peace.
Yeah.
And really, obviously, it's just not going to live up to the heights of The Shining, but I think it's a very good, solid attempt at capturing elements of that and then making it its own. So
yeah, no, I agree. I think it's obviously, it's not a letdown at all, and it's not one of those films where you think, oh, like Home Alone 3, why did they make one? You know, it's not like that. It's...
Which I think when it comes to Christmas, we might actually do a review of that. You know,
I can't wait now. Obviously, we've got to the point of where really I want to do a vote on should we start our Christmas movie marathon in November. Yes.
No, it's only fair.
What do you mean it's only fair? There's definitely more Christmas movies out there.
No, there isn't. There's more than the horror genre.
Yeah, but is it horror or is it Halloween? You know.
Anyway.
Kind of thing.
Well,
just like how we kind of have that discussion of Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
I think you'll find that it is.
I think you'll find it isn't. It's not a Christmas movie in my head.
Okay. Right. We'll leave it there for now. So thank you very much for listening to this episode.
Yes, thank you so much for listening, and I'm sorry that we couldn't give you much more on Borat, but just don't waste your time on that one. Watch The Shining or Dr. Sleep instead.
Well, I'll agree to that, but, you know, you're free to do what you want with...
Don't waste your time. Time is precious, and how long is it, an hour and a half or something?
Yeah.
Could do so much more in an hour and a half than that.
Yeah, true.
Could plan Christmas.
Yeah, it might take that long now with everything going on these days. So you can also check out our other episodes on Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, and wherever else you might get podcasts from. And of course, do follow us on social media under the handle SP Film Viewers on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Well, thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've enjoyed our Halloween spooky month. I actually have, which is weird because I don't really like horrors, so thank you for dragging me kicking and screaming into this and actually seeming somewhat surprised afterwards.
Yeah. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll speak to you next time.
Speak to you next time.
Okay, bye now.
Bye. Bye.